What's going on, y'all? It is Justin from Justin Paul Sports, and today is special because this is our first week of our 4-week SEC champion or SEC conference preview. We did this last year with the Big Ten as well, but we're cutting out the Big Ten, especially with all the garbage they've been saying about how great they are. When Cignetti thinks he's badass, and let's just be real, he absolutely canceled that game with Notre Dame. So your off season or your out of conference is pretty weak. So I'm not going to put up with that nonsense and give you the props that you deserve. I don't even care that you've won the 3 national championships recently. One of them super tainted with Michigan. We all know how much of a bunch of malarkey that was. But we are going to go ahead and get started. So let's just go ahead and get this thing rolling. Hang on one second here. We are just want to see what's going on. I'm having issues with one of my streams here. Hang on just a moment. One of my destinations isn't working out correctly. Guess it's not going to be there. With that being said, let me bring on my co-host with the most, ladies and gentlemen. It is Bobby from Bobby's Big Board. Bobby, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? Excited to talk about SEC football as always. Got some really killer guys in terms of fantasy upside on a lot of these teams. It's kind of hard to pick the spotlight player for these teams. The 4 teams we're going over: LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Mississippi State, which is my favorite team in college football, unfortunately. But we're on the up and up, man. I think we got some building that we can do. So yeah, I'm just super excited to go over it, man. There's one particular guy I'm really excited to talk about.
The trajectory of college football has changed so much since they've started the 4-team playoff, and then after that, they decided to go ahead and say, "Hey, we're going to expand the playoff to 12. We're going to have NIL. We're going to have all this and that." And you know what? I'm not opposed to the NIL. I'm not. But there has to be some kind of competitive balance, or you're going to have a situation like they got in Major League Baseball, but it's different because college isn't professional. So there's no union. There's no rules. It's just really the Wild West out there with who has the most money is going to survive. But what we're going to see here is a spiraling debt that's going to happen to some of these schools to try and keep up competitively, and they're not going to be able to. I think that we're going to see some teams are really going to have to stick it out with conferences that they don't want to be in order to get the proper compensation packages. You're going to see bigger teams carrying smaller teams revenue-wise, like I think you'll see like Major League Baseball does, where they penalize the Dodgers all that luxury tax for being that far over a certain amount. And the Dodgers, floor is basically paying for is more than like 6 or 7 teams' payrolls combined, including the St. Louis Cardinals. Kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We're in a whole new era of college football, and I think that's one thing we're not talking about Alabama tonight, but like they want to say Kalen DeBoer is not running the program like Saban. Well, it's a whole new perspective on what we're doing with all this stuff. It's kind of wild. I don't think we're going to see a run like that from any team, even if they've got all the money out there. We're just going to see colleges kind of have to figure it out. I think that you're going to see a wave of it, and it's going to settle down. And there'll be a lot less transfers. There's going to be situations where players want to develop. It's just going to be a whole mess until they get some kind of committee to go in there. But with that being said, Bobby, why don't we bring on your graphics for the show tonight? Tonight's show, we are going over the LSU Tigers, the Ole Miss Rebels, the South Carolina Gamecocks, and Bobby's Bulldogs. God bless the Bulldogs.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll go ahead and once we get the graphic on screen here, I'll kind of we'll go straight into our first guy. We just need to get the graphic on the screen, and then we'll be ready to start, my friend. Sweet. So let's go ahead and look at our first team, which, it's LSU Tigers. I think this is a team that has a lot of questions around it. Obviously, Lane Kiffin coming in as a head coach. You look at the LSU Tigers last year, they were not a good offense whatsoever. They were the 103rd best offense in the nation, but they were a very solid defense. They were ranked 23rd in the country, which is very, very good. And you think they bring in Lane Kiffin, they bring in Sam Leavitt, who we'll talk about in a little bit. They bring in a lot of receivers, right? They bring all of this offensive culture with Lane Kiffin and Weiss. You think possibly they can go ahead and turn this around and maybe get the 20th 20th best offense, and then something around the same in terms of defensive numbers as last year, you're thinking this could be a challenger for the SEC championship if they stay just as good defensively, and then they somehow have an offense like the past 3 years of Ole Miss. I think we're seeing a juggernaut here if that all clicks. I'm just not a big believer in Lane Kiffin. I think you need multiple years of him to build up this program. What do you think about the LSU Tigers going into 2026? I mean, I've got a lot of questions here because, I mean, they went 7-6 despite being a really poor offense.
Well, I always have it like I'm in accordance with you about first-year head coaches just coming and arriving. That's not a very common theme in any sport. It's very rare to see it happen. We did see it in the NFL with Ben Johnson arrive with the Bears, and they did go to the playoffs last year in his first season. I think you got more of a probability to do that in the NFL because you're able to have players on your roster for contracts and things along that sort. So your roster change isn't super evasive like it is when it comes to college football. I mean, Lane Kiffin enters with a pretty aggressive roster rebuild going on here.
Sure.
He had the largest transfer class in college football, so there's a mandate to immediately try and get there to the playoffs right away.
Yeah,
like you said, Sam Levitt, he's beloved out here at ASU. There is a high ceiling there, but there's questions about his health. What's the chemistry going to be like for him down there in Baton Rouge? It's a totally different mindset than Phoenix, Arizona when it comes to college football. I promise you that. But he had that foot surgery. We just got to see when people come off surgeries how they're going to perform. But LSU does have the talent. Some of the players they got were Harlem Berry and Caden Durham. They got a tight end named Trades Green. And I think that Kiffin's going to expose, defenses with that pretty well.
Absolutely.
His offense is complicated. It doesn't transition well to the NFL, but he has sent players like Jackson Dart to the NFL. He had Quinshawn Judkins down there who transferred out to Ohio State. You mentioned the defense. Princeville Umamilan, I think is how you say his name. TJ Dottery, Whit Weeks. They're deeper at linebacker this year than we normally see, so there is a ceiling there. Last year they were kind of inconsistent in football defensively, and it's always been kind of their Achilles heel lately. We haven't seen them be like a dominant defensive football team in some time. And then we're going to see. We're going to see what LSU's all about. There's a lot of hype going on there. Like I said, it's all wait and see for me. Like you said, you got the scoring offense last year in the hundreds. Total offense was one of the worst. Brian Kelly isn't exactly great.
For sure.
I mean, I don't want to say that he's a bad coach either. I just want to say something more so along the lines of he's just not the right fit.
Yeah.
So do you have more slides on this, or is this?
Yeah. So the structure, we're going to have this, and then we go into their offensive outlook. So we get some new additions. You got Sam Levitt, Jace Brown from K-State, which I think might be one of the better wide receiver additions that they got. They got Jackson Harris from Hawaii, who's a big speedster. But you obviously, like you said, Caden Durham. They got Harlem Berry as well, who, they kind of split the backfield last year. Trades Green, which we'll talk more in depth about. No spoilers. But, they did lose two of their best receivers last year to the NFL draft. Garrett Nussmeier, who played hurt mostly last year. I don't think he was much of a difference maker, in my opinion, even when he was healthy. And obviously Sam Levitt. My question to you, so they've got basically a brand new receiving core, all new transfers, all young guys. And then you got Sam Levitt coming in here, he's been throwing to the similar bunch of guys in, Jordan Tyson, who just went to the NFL, top 5 pick. Do you think with Sam Levitt, this is my thought, if Sam Levitt comes in, he has basically no chemistry. He's coming off an injury. He has little to no in-game chemistry with any of these receivers. I think there's probably going to be some rust and kind of a learning curve with all of these receivers and the connection with their quarterback.
Well, they're going to have to get ready real quick because they open the season against Clemson.
Yeah.
And, they don't have the Indiana schedule to start the season, right?
Yeah.
So there's not going to be a whole lot of time. Everything's going to be done in camp. There is a benefit of him being a veteran quarterback, so this isn't like he's going completely, in blindfolded to a situation with this team. But there is a step up in competition here, like I said, compared to the Big 12. So we're going to see what he's all about. I'm curious to see it. I'm a lot of hype. I've seen a lot of people on the Twitter say that they think that LSU is a legit contender for the SEC. I'm not buying it in year one.
Me neither.
I'm pretty adamant about being realistic with college football rosters and coaching and things along that sort. So I don't think they're a college football playoff team this year. I do see a New Year's Day Bowl. I could see him in the Gator Bowl. I could see him, doing any of those non-playoff bowls per se. Last year they were in the Texas Bowl, and still a year away. Everybody says that they're going to beat Alabama. I'm not so certain. Again, that's just because Kalen DeBoer is in his third year there, and kind of developed that roster into what he was doing. Now, if Lane Kiffin had stayed at Ole Miss, I think there'd be a whole different ball game. But for some reason, I think this is going to be the biggest coaching regret of his career. Personally, I know you've got way better. You got a substantially better donor base in LSU, and you've got a more of a winning football tradition there than you do down in Oxford. But also that amps up the pressure, and he's a different cat when it comes to his personality, and he's goofing off on Twitter and he's messing around with the gals on college. Like, we're going to see it's a complete transition from square Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
And Lane Kiffin's not Southern. He's West Coast. So, this guy coached the Raiders. He just...
So before going into some of the film of their offense, which is going to be completely changed, but just kind of go over what they've done in the past, I kind of want to look at their schedule here. So, you've got Clemson opening up the year. They've lost a ton of talent to the NFL draft. Cade Klubnik's no longer there. I think this is a closer matchup than people may think, but I'd probably say LSU here. I see them probably September 19th. That's going to be a good one. I can't wait to see how Oxford responds to that. But, I could see them easily losing 4 football games on the schedule. I think A&M, Ole Miss possibly. I think Ole Miss has the better team right now than LSU. I'd say A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama are three pretty tough games for them, especially Ole Miss on the road. I don't know. I think they're a 9-3 football team. I really do. I think they're a 9-3 football team.
I got 9-3 as well. I don't think that they beat Texas. I don't think they beat Alabama. Those are 2 definite losses. The third could be any of those. It could be Clemson. It could be Ole Miss. We're going to see. Like, everybody loves the storyline there. It's kind of fun that it's going to be, it's still warm in Mississippi in mid-September for sure. So weather won't be a factor there. But I expect the Grove to be drunk at 6 a.m. Like, I expect a 6 a.m. barn burner. I don't care that. Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Louise.
It's absolutely
insanity.
It's part of why you watch football. It's part of why you watch sport. It's a
storyline, man.
Yeah, he's going on the road to Oxford. On the road to the school. The way he stumbled out of there is, I think, what the problem was.
We knew that was going to happen. That's just kind of his MO as a coach. I think he just likes to do that. He doesn't leave anywhere on good terms. It's always shaky. Is he going to leave? Is he going to finish? Is he not? I don't like him as a person. He's a very good offensive coach, but man, I wouldn't like him to be State's head coach. Like, even if he's good. But let's go ahead and look at some film here. So LSU kind of runs a spread offense, dink and dunk type stuff. You see that here. Just a quick out route. You got the out route. Whoops. Just got an out route from a tight end here, right? Just nothing crazy. Quick passes. I think this changes to more of an RPO type of style, a lot more screens and things like that. I think that's what you're going to expect more from LSU this year, especially when you have someone that's not a statue like Garrett Nussmeier was. No offense, but he was a prototypical pocket quarterback. If you wanted him to move at all, that was not happening. Sam Leavitt is the opposite of that, true dual threat quarterback. So I think you're going to see a lot is going to be a similar looking offense to a 2024 Ole Miss when they had Jackson Dart there. But I just don't know if it's going to flow that well because they had a lot of guys with a lot of experience in that system. With all these new guys coming in, I just don't know how it's going to translate immediately. So, anything else you want to add to LSU before we move to our spotlight player? Because this guy that we're about to look at is fun.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, okay, well, let's go ahead and look at the spotlight player. You already mentioned him. He's on this graphic. Whoa, wait a second. Wait a moment. I messed up something. Let me check.
We're seeing Bobby's desktop. He plays League of Legends, folks.
Yeah. Why is that like that?
What'd you do? In the meantime, while Bobby's looking that up, I'm going to run a quick promo here. So, folks, my CFL package is up. Tomorrow. It will be live for the weekend. I will have everything going on. So here's just a quick little generation for you to take.
We are playing Montreal in Montreal. Right. We are playing on the road. We are playing in a dome. We are playing in front of 65,000 screaming fans. Okay. Men, we got them right where we want them. We got them right where we want them.
Guys, right. I got it figured out. I got it figured out.
We got
the order is correct. I have the spotlight players at the end of the graphic on purpose. I think that's the strong way to end on. But we'll go ahead and move into Mississippi State. So if you guys want to stay tuned for the spotlight players and talk about all things fantasy, if you guys are dynasty players or even Devy players, like guys that are actually doing fantasy football in college, if you're that much of a sicko, this is some stuff that you may want to look at. But Mississippi State, my favorite team in college football, they went 5-8 last year, SEC record. They at least won an SEC game. I don't think that was the case in 2024. Got smoked by Wake Forest in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, unfortunately. Levy, I will say, basically doubled our win total from last year. We won 2 games in 2024. He bumped it all the way up to 5, and that's with some really good offensive play. You see the 42nd best offense in the nation. I mean, we were scoring. We had a bunch of deep threats, and really the problem, you can see that, the 106th ranked scoring defense in the country. That was the biggest problem. We were scoring, but we couldn't stop teams from scoring. And I think that's still going to be an issue this year, but we got a guy. We got some guys. I think I'm really excited to see how they do this year. Their schedule, unfortunately, is still not good. I mean, our schedule was brutal last year, but it's still not ideal. In terms of for you, what are your thoughts on Mississippi State going into the season? I mean, do you think that they're going to fire Levy before the end of the year? I think they hold on to him just because we saw significant improvement in the offense, which is his, expertise. But yeah, any thoughts on Mississippi State before we kind of deep dive more into who they got?
So just never forget, folks, last year Mississippi State had Texas on the ropes at home and should have won the game outright. That was the most exciting state game I had watched all season last year. But I think Jeff Levy, like you said, his offense, everything's entering kind of the prove-it stage, right? They've shown flashes of tempo and space identity with Levy, and that's exactly what the man runs. In year 3, the expectation, though, I think it's going to be a little bit higher. They want to start winning more in conference. I think Kamario Taylor is the breakout candidate on this team. He's, that got the dual threat profile. The Bulldogs have something that when he's out there, it's going to make defenses have to account for him on every single play. Rushing production, red zone value, offensive ceiling goes up with him out there. The skill productions on this team, you still got Fluff Bothwell with a name like Fluff. You got Anthony Evans III. You got Marquise Johnson, Aiden Williams. So I think Mississippi State's got some players out there to get you firepower to keep it close like they did last year. Like you had said, the offense was thriving. It wasn't a big issue out there. Defensively was the problem. But the biggest thing was they got to do defensive coordinator. You're talking about the defensive side of the ball and Zach Arnett. And we're just going to have to kind of see how it plays out. You got a new D coordinator, and the schedule starts off kind of manageable, but then in the second half, it turns into a bloodbath. I mean, you got Minnesota on the schedule, though, which I think could be a winnable game.
It's a fun game, too. I'm excited for that one. It's on the road.
South Carolina, you got Missouri at home, who should be regressing a little bit. But then it gets into Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, Vandy, Auburn. I mean, but Auburn's winnable. I think that this is a similar season to next year. I think that they have one more win. I'm going to say 6-6 for State. It just because, like you said, they just drew the rough end of the SEC gauntlet this year.
And last year. And the year before that.
But that's how the cycle works, because your three permanent opponents are Ole Miss, Alabama, and I don't know who the third one is, but I know Ole Miss, Alabama, and there's one other one that like Alabama is every year is Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Auburn. So every year we're going to play them regardless. So yours is Ole Miss. You'd have to look it up, but nonetheless, I think that State's just
kind of might be Missouri, actually.
Is it Missouri?
Yeah, I believe so, because it's not Arkansas. We played them the past 2 years. So yeah, I think it's Missouri, Alabama, and
but Bama and for those that are watching, Tuscaloosa and Starkville are not even 90 miles apart. So it makes sense they play. They've been playing forever since the dawn of time. Everybody wanted Alabama to play LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn every year. And sorry, folks, LSU is not the storied rival that State is. I know it's a little bit more one-sided in this one, but that's not the point. You wanted Tennessee, I knew would be one for sure. So we do not like
So we'll go ahead and get into a little bit more. We've got 3 returning offensive starters in terms of just fantasy outlook, right? You got Kamario Taylor, you got Fluff Bothwell, Anthony Evans. We've got our returning center, Aiden Williams, as well, which he didn't play a big factor last year. But we've got some wide receivers coming in, because look at what Anthony Evans had a great year, almost 1,000 yards, right? Brennan Thompson, he broke the school single season receiving record last year. So this team definitely has some strengths, especially passing the ball. With Kamario Taylor, I'd like to see his passing develop a little bit more this year. He kind of relied, you can see that in his stats, 629 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Then he had 8 touchdowns on the ground and almost as many rushing yards. He's ridiculous, and we'll talk about him more later possibly. But, Seydou Traore, he's a very solid tight end. That's gone. Devon Booth was a veteran. He came up a lot for us. Brennan Thompson, obviously a big loss. But I think this team can really thrive, because Brennan Thompson was not a guy that had much of any production until last year. He had no production on any of his teams. I think he was a Georgia guy, I believe. And then he came to Mississippi State and broke the school record. So we're trying to find talent that other teams just aren't utilizing, and that's kind of how you win in this era of football if you don't have a ton of NIL money. So just a couple things I want to talk about. You talk about the SEC losses and how we need to improve in the conference, and they're really close. 3 of their SEC losses came by 1 possession, 7 points to Tennessee, 2 points by Florida, and then 7 to Texas. 2 really solid teams, and then Florida. So I think he's really close to making this team competitive in the SEC. We just need that defense to step up, and I'm really excited to see where they go. I do want to ask a question. Do you think that Anthony Evans can be a 1,000-yard receiver since Brennan Thompson's not drawing the coverage as a deep threat?
I do. You're going to see big chunks of that early. I think he's going to be your go-to guy. I think he's your number 1 receiver. Yep. And, offensively, this team is not terrible. So, yes, I absolutely do think that that's something that can happen.
It's just the Camario Taylor thing. We just need to see him pass more. But I'll go ahead and kind of show you this veer and shoot type of offense. First thing you notice. What's the first thing you notice about the formation that the Mississippi State Bulldogs are in right now?
Just wide splits.
Look at this. They've got sideline to sideline here. They are trying to find all of the space possible. So you're going to have like a lot of hitches, little out route combos, traditional kind of offensive concepts. And you're going to see that here. Another thing I'll talk about in the next angle here. This is just, look, 5-6 yards, kill you underneath, and then play action, throw a bomb. That's the whole offense, basically. And you're going to see this exact sequence every single time. Blake Shapen, not a big Blake Shapen fan. Thank you for giving your blood, sweat, and tears to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Not a good quarterback. He put up good stats. He was not a good quarterback, in my opinion. But you're going to see this read option look always. That's basically every play for the most part, unless you're in shotgun, single, no back in the backfield. Empty. You're going to see this read option look every single time. And when you have a guy like Camario Taylor, that read option is going to be there a ton. So you've got this play action concept always. They play off the inside zone a ton, and they play power with it as well. That's basically the whole offense in a nutshell. You just kill them underneath, play action, bomb, and you run the ball some, not a lot, and use that read option concept to your advantage. And that's, simple, but man, it works because you have the teams, they have to play one level of field. We're not really over the middle of the field. You got to play short or you got to play far back. There's no in between. It kind of puts defenses in a bind with how you play state.
Yeah, that's what Josh Heupel does in Tennessee with those super obnoxious wide splits. And if you're realistic, it's a running formation first because you've got so many players spread out. All you got to do is look at the defensive front first and decide what you're going to do. Like you said, if you want to do an RPO, I'm not the biggest fan of an RPO offense. I'm not. It's something about it, I think that's really hyper simplified, and I know it works, and there's no way to really stop it. But when you do wide splits like that, you also restrict what your wide receivers can do as far as what their routes are. When you're hugging the sidelines like that, you can only go deeper in. And if you just get checked at the line of scrimmage by a defensive back, and if he shoves you hard enough, you can go out of bounds and then you're out of the play. So there's risk reward with that kind of offense. I think that should be a formation that should be used in certain situations. My personal take on that, I'm more of a fan of pro style when it comes to offense and, even things like with Navy with their wishbones and certain things. But like when it comes to super wide splits all the time, that's your primary look. It's not my favorite personally, but it does work for some teams.
Yep.
And maybe that explains why they scored so much, Tennessee, what's his name? Their quarterback escapes me off the top of my head, but he led the league SEC in passing last year.
Yep.
So it does.
Yeah, it's a gaudy offense that can do a lot of really good things, can stall out a lot of drives as well. But next, we're going to talk about a team that we both kind of like, but they just had a really tough go last year. Is the South Carolina Gamecocks. They went 4-8. 1-7 SEC record, but I don't think the record really tells the talent. Yes, they had some offensive struggles, but their defense was really good. This is a great stat here. The Gamecocks were either winning or within one score entering the fourth quarter in 10 of their 12 games last year. They just could not finish games whatsoever. They led Alabama late, 29-22. Then they led Texas A&M like 30-3 at halftime, and then they lost that game as well. So just a really hard time, just not a second half football team whatsoever. I think they got a ton of talent. We were excited about South Carolina last year during our previews, and they just unfortunately just couldn't really win these close games, just kind of like how State was, but way worse. You see the scoring offense, 104th, and with the talent that they had, I knew that Raheem Sanders was going to be a huge loss for them when he went to the NFL, and he's not even playing anywhere. I mean, he's with the Browns, I believe, but he's like on the practice squad. That just goes to show you how good you have to be in the NFL, because he was a game changer for South Carolina. Nick Harbor, Lenore Sellers was a Heisman candidate before going into the year last year. But the defense has been great, 44th best scoring defense. It's just they also had a really tough schedule. 9 bowl eligible opponents, 6 teams ranked at the time, and then 5 teams that ended up finishing top 15 in the college football playoff rankings. So there's a lot to like about this team, and I think the schedule was a big part of that, and they stayed competitive a good bit of the year. So what do you think about the Gamecocks going into 2026?
Well, when we're talking about South Carolina, the first thing I got to do is give a shout out to our boy Steven Garcia, who joined us last year. I want to give him a shout out because he did announce that he has stage 4 cancer and is fighting this. So we support you, Steve. I mean, you graciously joined our show last year, and we're pulling for you, buddy. We want you to pull through. Anybody that's got that, it's a horrible, horrible thing to deal with. And, he's younger than I am. And it's just, crazy how life works that way. But, yeah, we want to give it up for Garcia for sure. And we're pulling for him and pray for him. Just hang in there, buddy. But we're going to turn it up a little bit. Let's talk about the Gamecocks. Well, Beamer, like you said, he had a 2025 for the ages. But he did bring in Kendall Briles to run the offense now.
Yeah.
They got a new offensive line coach with Randy Clements. And we got a new running backs coach. So the entire offensive scheme is going to be looking a lot different than it did last year.
Absolutely.
Everything is going to go through Lenore Sellers, right? He's got the arm talent. He's got the size. But last year, what their biggest problem was third down protection. That dude was taking sacks, negative plays, throwing it away, things along that sort. So it's going to be critical to see what the offensive line does. I mean, if the offensive line gets better, they can look like they did in 2024 as opposed to 2025. I think that's an indicator of what that football team was about. Like you said, they led Alabama, things along that sort. Just couldn't hang on to win some of those games. Should have beat A&M down there in College Station because they were putting belt to rear end down there in the first half. Yeah. And sometimes, there's a psychological thing like that.
Yeah.
And like you talked about receiver, like you said, Nick Harbor, he's an overall 99 speed on the college football game for those that like to play that. And remember, they got Nitro Tuggle, the Georgia transfer. They got DJ Black. They got Donovan Murph. So they've got guys around there that'll show that they, a little bit of some seasoning going on with the Gamecocks offense.
Mm-hmm.
Talent's going to be fine. I think this can be a 7-5 football team. Maybe 6-6, maybe 8-4. I don't see anything elite to where they're going to do a playoff push. I don't think they're going to contend for the SEC championship. But nonetheless, it should be. It just depends on how everything plays out with the offensive front, and everything on this team is going to go through Lenore Sellers.
I mean, looking at their schedule, they start with Kent State and Towson, and then State, that could very easily be a 3-0 start. Obviously, they have Alabama at Tuscaloosa. Then you play Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee, Oklahoma, A&M, Arkansas, Georgia, and then they finish the year at Clemson. I mean, I'm leaning more towards 8-4 this year. One thing I do want to note, Briles coming in, I thought that was a fantastic hire because he was killing it at TCU. Past 3 years when he's been on the TCU program, he's never averaged below 30 points per game, and he ranked 11th, 31st, and 30th nationally in total offense. So this guy really knows how to understand how to use offensive talent, and I think South Carolina's got a lot of that. Like you said, there's a ton of names that we can talk about, and we'll talk about them right now. You got Nitro Tuggle from Purdue. You've got Christian Clark, Texas, DJ Black, Jabri Coleman. A lot of guys that have a lot of starter potential. You've got some standouts like DJ Black that's been killing it in spring, and then you have Nick Harbor, Jaden Sellers, returning offensive lineman, Lenore Sellers, who, in my opinion, has a ton of upside. Obviously, you've got a couple of guys, a lot of offensive linemen departed. I don't think that's because they didn't want to be there. I think that was more so people saying, hey, the offensive line was terrible last year. We're bringing in new guys. If you want to start elsewhere, you probably need to go. So, Yeah, I think there's a lot of talent to be had here. I'm excited to see what Lenore's can do with some good protection. And obviously, Nick Harbor, 618 yards and 6 touchdowns, led the team in both of those categories in only 30 receptions. You see that? None of these guys really had a ton of receptions. Lenore's wasn't really throwing the ball that much because of the protection issues. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what this team does. I think they're an exciting football team. I think they got a lot of really flashy players, and obviously Nick Harbor is ridiculous in terms of his size speed combo, and he really started to kind of come out a little bit last year. He has some hand inconsistencies, but once he gets that under control, I think this guy could be an absolute monster.
Sure. It's got to get together. He's a burner. You know, you want to break out this year. You don't want to be able to get who breaks out late, and then everybody gets that hype on you. So maybe he's the next Carolina Panther.
Maybe so. I hated that for Chris Brazell. I loved his tape, but we'll go ahead and look. This is kind of a stereotypical pro-style offense in a lot of ways, but I kind of want to highlight this play because you see they do like to run a decent amount, and they like to have their fullback, or in this case, it's a tight end kind of lead block. But in this case, you're not going to get that. You've got this play action, and then who's your guy? Nick Harbor here, who I thought they were going to run a lot more traditionally as like an X receiver where they're just throwing him fades down the stretch. He's actually running routes now. That's why I picked this play to kind of highlight, because he's actually running a slant here and actually gets some separation. Not the best slant route, I'm not going to lie, but it's something, you know.
Yeah.
And guys aren't expecting him to do that because he's just so green at the position. And I think they're going to utilize him a lot more this season. I'm really excited to see what they do with Nick Harbor. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the names people are talking about in the NFL drafts space come the end of the year.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like I said, I think 7-5, maybe 8 wins, like you say, but I don't think they're a top tier SEC team this year.
Yeah, it's just the schedule is a little bit weak. Obviously, they play Alabama, Oklahoma. We'll see how they do. They're kind of hit or miss.
That's a good matchup because you're going to have Oklahoma's strength is their defense, and South Carolina's strength is going to be offense, and that offensive line will really get a test. I think you get a real indicator of how they are as a football team when those two play for sure.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about our last team before we get into the highlight players. We're going to talk about Ole Miss. And I think out of the 4 teams, they're easily the most accomplished in terms of last year, right? They finished 13-2. They went to the college football playoff semifinal where they lost. Pretty close game, but you know, they were there. Pete Golding, I know you have your quarrels with him, but hey, look, he won some playoff games and
beat Georgia. They beat Georgia.
Looked pretty good doing it too. And the offense didn't really teeter off without Kiffin there. But overall, with that Lane Kiffin offense, 10th scoring offense, 2nd in total offense, and this has kind of been the theme for Ole Miss over the past few years. They are a very strong offensive team, and defensive-wise, they were very good as well, 37th ranked scoring defense. I mean, this is crazy. 489 yards per game. I think the only offense that was better than that was North Texas last year, I believe. So
those guys were out of control.
They were out of control. I mean, they were out of control.
Out of their minds last year. It was pretty unique. I love to see that for the smaller schools, like when you got some kind of something like that to keep your eyes peeled on it. It's always good to see those group of 5 teams do stuff like that. That's fun. Makes the game fun. Football's supposed to be fun. Absolutely. And Ole Miss offense, has been fun prior under Lane Kiffin and the entire storylines there. But Trinidad Chambliss, he's going to come back after his breakout season last year. So, that's what you want. Your quarterback's coming back. That's the anchor of your offense. He's got the playoff experience. They beat Gunnar Stockton in Georgia in the bowl game last year. They nearly beat Miami in the semifinal game. I mean, it came down to Carson Beck making the last play of the game is essentially what happened. Ole Miss, though, we're going to see what they're doing at wide receiver because it kind of, they're going on transfers. They got Jonte Cook and Deuce Alexander, and we're going to see what that chemistry is like with Trinidad Chambliss.
Yeah.
And they got a new offensive coordinator. John David Baker is going to be taking over since Golding's going to, he's a defensive coach. Although that remains to be seen how I feel about his defense, but we all know how it is. But the schedule for them, they play Louisville in week 1 and a neutral site game in Nashville. Then they got LSU right away. Then they go on the road to Florida, Vandy, Texas, Oklahoma, and State. Home games against Missouri, Auburn, and Georgia. So we're going to see here. I think this is a 9-win football team. There's a little bit of a regression there. If they beat LSU and Georgia, I think they'll definitely get in the college football playoff. I think those are the two that would really kind of stand in their way.
Yeah.
The rest of the schedule is manageable, and they've got enough experience at quarterback to overcome all that. Oklahoma's on there as well. And then the Egg Bowl is always going to be something. So it's my second favorite rivalry game. After the Iron Bowl.
I'll be going to that one. I'll be in Oxford for that one.
After the Iron Bowl, it's the Egg Bowl. I swear to God, for me, after the Iron Bowl, it's the Egg Bowl. The Egg Bowl is way, way more exciting.
And it's very competitive most years,
Michigan, Ohio State. Oh, Michigan, Ohio State's so good. Nobody cared. Nobody cared until recently. Ohio State had put the belt on them for 10 years in a row. Like, get out of here with this, the game. Get out of here with it. I'm so tired of hearing Army-Navy is better than the game. But this
Army-Navy is a slept-on rival that people need to respect way more. That is such a good football game.
They need to open the season with that. That needs to be a week 0 non-conference game.
Just have the guys. I like it. I kind of like it later on in the year just because of how beat up both teams are, because each team's just running the ball into each other's faces, and you've got a bunch of tired guys that are just out there just running into each other. It's phenomenal to watch. I love it. I'm an Army Black Knights fan, so I'm excited to see what they do this year. They've had a bunch of really depressing losses last year. Just losing just by this much to Memphis last year. Just goes to show them how good they were, even though they weren't winning a lot of football games. Do you think Ole Miss is the most complete team of the 4 that we're going over, or do you think LSU takes the cake for this?
Well, I'm going to go with Ole Miss over LSU because there's a familiar head coach going on here. It's not like they brought in somebody from the outside. They gave Golding a chance. And to be fair to Pete Golding, in Alabama, he's a pariah because of how he was running schemes, like dropping Will Anderson into coverage and a lot of other goofy things that I don't think he should ever done. But the playoff wins matter. They do matter as a head coach. You've got experience in playoff pressure situations with wins and have a win over Georgia. That has to count for something. He's got Trinidad Chambliss back. He's got Kawan Lacey back, right? This is an experienced football team. But now we're going to see the trajectory of his recruiting, his staff, his everything. There's really not a whole lot of Lane Kiffin holdovers. Yeah. They're going to be hyped up for the LSU game, obviously, but I got to see it more. I preach that to the core, whether it's talking about college football or the NFL. You can do it once, but can you sustain it? There are certain guys that can sustain it. Like Dabo had a run there where he was sustaining it for a bit. Yeah. Coach Saban was sustaining it for a bit there. But then you got situations like Coach O. Does he sustain it? It's the other thing with LSU. They've really got their head in the sand, I think, a little bit. There's a lot of excitement and fun. If you're a college football fan and let's just say you don't care about the SEC for a minute. Let's just say you like a Big Ten, ACC, whatever, or you're just a fan of the game overall. You're enjoying watching Lane Kiffin circus down there and then bringing back Coach O and but we don't ding don't go Tigers and all that nonsense. We're going to see some more of that. Everybody loves Cajun Coach O, who speaks French, by the way, Cajun French, God bless him. So everything feels new and exciting, and they got rid of Brian Kelly, and now all this expectation. I just think that LSU fans in particular have got to pump the brakes and just let year one breathe. They've got to let it breathe. Lane Kiffin is a step up in excitement for them because Brian Kelly was so bland and so unlikable as a head coach, and the memes of him trying to speak Southern and standing and doing that photography thing with the offensive lineman who didn't even play for him anyway, or whatever the hell it was. It was a circus, and everybody
Yeah.
likes to see the circus and watch it for the freak show effect. But I think Ole Miss ain't gonna be like that because that was my point. Pete Golding is actually pretty serious about football.
Absolutely.
In interviews that I've seen with him, he's like, I don't have time for all this. I'm trying to run a college football program. And I'm convinced that running a college football program is the hardest job you can have. You have to, it's not like the NFL where you got a general manager and then you've got agents. And you do have those things in college now. Plus, you have to recruit. In the NFL, you don't have to recruit, you just have the draft.
Yeah,
So it's
and that's a year-long thing, all year round.
Yeah, college football recruiting, there's no off season. In the NFL, once your season's over, right? Let's say you're a non-playoff team, your season ends in that first weekend of January.
For a little bit.
And if you're under contract, you're recovering from injury, you're taking vacation, you're going and doing this and that. Unless you're a fired coach, then your life changes, but your rosters are pretty much intact. This game right here it's harder than the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. You're dealing with a younger generation and parents and going to houses, and it's got to be the most stressful sports job is running a college football program because you have so many. College basketball, you only got to get 12 kids. Other sports you don't have to recruit as hard as this one. The competitive edge is not as fierce as it is in this league.
And it's not just your starters either. I mean, yeah, It's good to have a starting quarterback, starting running back, things like that. But man, you have to have depth at a lot of these positions, running back specifically, your trenches, offensive and defensive line. I mean, you got to have kids that you're recruiting that you can mold into players that you want to be starters. It's just a lot that goes into it. And, in the NFL, yeah, you only need a 53-man roster with, a 12, 14-man practice squad. And in college, you can have upwards. I don't remember how many people you can have.
90. Isn't it 90?
90. That's insane.
Yep.
That's incredible where you can just bring in, and you have to have 90 good players. You can't just have, you have to have depth at a lot of these positions. So
unless you're Colorado, did you see Colorado had a defensive back that was 140 pounds?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Come on. Division I football. Division I. A corner. 5'9", 140.
You better be good.
Deion's team is tiny. Man.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I want to just talk about one guy because we're not going to be talking about him anymore after this. It's Trinidad Chambliss. He was not going to be their guy at the beginning of the year. Also, what was their quarterback's name before Trinidad? The guy everybody was hyping up. Not Austin Mack. What was his name?
Austin Mack's at Alabama.
Yeah. Who was their quarterback before Trinidad?
Oh, it escapes me at the moment. But I think he tried to get an injunction to continue to play.
Austin Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a guy that, he came in at Georgia, in the Georgia game for Ole Miss, looked really good for a drive, and people thought, he graduated high school at 16, and he's just really smart. He had a really tough time. I forget where he transferred to, but he'll probably be starting elsewhere. But Trinidad came in as a D2 guy and just really came on strong and was one of the best college football quarterbacks in the country last year.
Yeah.
30 total touchdowns. I think only 3 interceptions. Like, great both in the passing and rushing. I saw him live multiple times last year, and this guy he's not super fast. He's athletic, but he's not super fast. He doesn't have a great arm. He's just really smart and doesn't make mistakes. And in a Lane Kiffin offense, and I hope the offense stays somewhat the same. If it does, Trinidad Chambliss could be a legitimate guy to lead this team to the playoffs again because Trinidad is that good and does not turn the ball over. So I'm really excited. We'll go ahead and take a look at a little bit of film here. And this is versus Georgia. And here goes Trinidad. And it has a lot of – this is a pick play, which is interesting. So you've got the bunch here.
They should have won this game too, by the way. They had a 2-possession lead in the fourth quarter.
So they have a little two-man bunch here, and they're he's trying to do like this stutter step in route here, and this guy's just kind of bulldozing his way forward. It ends up being kind of a pick play, and look at that. Boom, gets it in there. Perfect timing from Trinidad. Just great stuff here. And they do a lot of these really clever play designs, and that's just how Ole Miss was one of the best offenses last year. They really take advantage of leverage and just being smart and having play concepts that work. I mean, honestly, that's just what they do. They make a lot of really good play concepts, and that was one of many that ended up not getting super open, but Trinidad was able to drill it in there and get them some much-needed yardage against that really good Georgia defense. So if you don't have anything else to talk about for Ole Miss, I'm excited to go into the fantasy players, the guys that are going to be on our dynasty rosters in a few years, and just guys that I think are going to be really big breakouts for each of these teams.
I'm just going to remove your board here for 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that we saw on there, and one gripe that I have about college football, the only main gripe that I have is quarterbacks going up to the line of scrimmage and doing this. You are not fooling anybody. Get a cadence, learn how to play the game, learn how to manipulate the defense, because you're not going to get an offsides penalty by doing this. Aaron Rodgers used to do hard count. Find a way to give yourself a competitive advantage when you're playing this game. When you're just sitting there playing patty cake, it's insane. John Gruden is absolutely right about this. Learn a cadence, learn how to time it. I know the stadiums are loud, but it'll make you a better football team overall. It'll help your timing. Get rid of the fake clapping. Nobody buys that garbage. I'm done. I'm off my Brocker there with that one, but that's just how I feel about it.
I think there's two ways to look at it. So first thing is with the clapping, it's a lot. It helps the miscommunication on the offensive side a lot more, and it just makes the offense run a lot smoothly when you have young people that don't have a lot of experience in college. I think in the NFL, obviously, you've got guys that have played in college 3-4 years. They go to the NFL. Then there's cadences that they have to learn and get used to. But
I'm going to push back on this, Bobby. I'm going to say when I was in high school, I played on the defensive front. I heard cadences. Nobody did clapping when I was there. I'm not that old. I mean, I'm
not talking about the defensive side. I'm talking about the offensive side of the ball, getting false starts, things like that. Whenever you're clapping, there's way less opportunities for offensive linemen to have a false start, or receivers even to have false starts. That's why I think the offensive coaching staffs promote that a lot more, because it's a lot safer.
Now, though. Again, you're getting paid now. If you can't learn a cadence and we're paying you money, you need to go. It's just my take. I'm not going to dumb it down.
But if it's allowed in college football, do you think if it's an easier thing to prevent false starts on the offensive side? Look, I get it. I love cadences. I love the hard counts, but you can't do hard counts and cadences like that unless everybody on the offense is on the same page and used to that type of thing. Because I'm telling you, whenever you start doing cadences and things like that and you introduce that to a college football program, there's a lot of growing and getting used to that cadence that you have to do over a summer. And some coaches are just like, we don't have time to learn this. We're trying to learn a million other things and get the offense actually running. So the clapping ends up being what a lot of teams want to go for. I know in the NFL, I don't think you can do clapping. So
you played high school football, right?
I did, yes.
And you were a tight end, right?
Yes, I played tight end and Mike linebacker.
Okay. So did your offense in high school, just asking, did you guys run on a clap or a cadence?
We ran on a cadence, but we were not like every other offense.
So that's the thing. Don't be like every other offense. Again, I hear your side of the argument, but also aren't you hindering these players to not learn how to play the game of football for the next level, especially if you're an offensive lineman? When you're an offensive lineman, you need to know how that works. Your quarterback and your offensive lineman are better with a cadence than a clap because of things like that. Because of that, maybe you don't need to have a playbook like Texas or North Texas or something that's 50 pages, 500 pages long. Simplify it and be great at what you do. Like I just never like the clapping. I think that it hurts everybody in their development, but I see your side of the coin. I
Yeah.
just disagree with it. Be better.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Hey,
especially
look,
now that
I'm
you're
a
getting
fan of the
paid.
cadence. I'm just
Yeah.
I have to acknowledge why the teams do it, right? That's why they do it. It's easier and less risk in terms of offensive penalties. So
I had one offsides penalty, and I played on a defensive tackle. There's no excuse, but I bid on a hard count against a school that wasn't very good. And believe me, the coach had my rear end when I got to the sideline for it. I had no excuse. I was just trying to make a play. We were down inside the goal line, like trying to make a play defensively, and mentally I wasn't there. So, but if there was a clap going on, I wouldn't even looked at anything else but the quarterback, just waiting for him to clap, because the fake clap fools nobody.
well,
On to the next.
Yeah, look, we're going to go on to one of the people I'm most excited about, and it's Trades Green. I'm just going to tell you guys, this guy is 6'7", 240 pounds.
He's like your height.
Yes, I'm 6'6". He's taller than me and significantly more athletic than me. You can play him anywhere, in line, and I was pretty athletic in my day. This guy is a freak, and we'll show you he's a freak. You can play him in line, play him in the slot. You can split him outside. You can play him all over the field. At 6'7", 237 pounds, he is a matchup nightmare pretty much anywhere you play him. 433 yards and 7 touchdowns, despite them being a horrible offense last year. And one thing I want to note, out of his 433 yards, almost 200 of them came after the catch. That's insanity. 41% of his production came with the ball in his hands rather than making contested catches, which I will say a lot of his touchdowns came from. I'm just going to go ahead and play the tape, because the tape speaks for itself. Here he is, a play versus Clemson here. You're just going to see him on a simple drag route. Get off of me. Let me just keep fighting. He gets about 4 extra yards there. Super simple stuff here. And then you can play him out wide like they are against Clemson again here. He's on a defensive back. That's not fair.
If they use him in the red zone like that, they're going to be super productive. I mean, you got one-on-one down there, and you're that height, you're that size.
And Nussmeier's throwing him the ball immediately. They're like, I see this little boy on this 6'7" monster. I'm just going to throw it up to him, high point the football. And, I mean, that's not fair. Look at 8. He's got his arms up. What do I do, guys? He's looking at his coaching staff. What do I do? Yeah, you do nothing. You do nothing. You get scored on. And here's one of my – this is crazy. He's on basically a slant route here. That's an insane – for his size, okay, when he's running this little 5-step slant, it's very crisp for someone his size. And then watch what he does after the catch. Whoop! Get off of me. Just beautiful. I'm going to play that one more time, because he catches the ball, plants, steps outside, and makes the 2 South Carolina Gamecocks look stupid.
Almost a hospital ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
they know you can take it, and then, hey, give the safety give the safety some boom too. Fall forward for an extra 3 yards. Trades Green has all of the attributes to be a ridiculous Kyle Pitts type of player. You know how crazy Kyle Pitts was at Florida.
We can use this guy in Green Bay, because I think Musgrave's going to be out after this year. So, just saying, come on down to the Lambeau.
Are y'all going to spend a first-round pick on him? Because I think that's where this guy's probably going to go.
Well, there is no first-round pick. It goes to Dallas.
Well, there you go. You're not getting him. I think this guy is going to have an 800-yard year with 10 touchdowns or so. With this LSU passing game, I think he's going to be
maybe he's a Chief then.
Big-time breakout. I'd love him as a Chief, honestly. I think we've got a lot more needs than just a tight end.
Kelsey will be gone.
Kelsey will be gone, but I think there's a lot of free agents coming up, so we'll see. I would love Trades Green on any football team I like, but he's going to be a premium. I think if he comes out there and really showcases his athleticism and gets some production on his side,
Then
I
if
think
that's the
Trey
case,
Green is a mid to late first round pick.
then I think that would be a Minnesota Viking because TJ Hawkinson's fall from grace has got to be studied. So, or dare I say, the 49ers. I mean, they got to start eventually doing something, like I said the other day.
With Kittle just coin flip if he's fully healthy or not.
That team is just so it's aging, and you got to eventually replace players like Kittle.
Yeah.
Kittle, a lot of people like him. He likes pro wrestling and all that stuff. And when he's on, he's on. But the constant injuries out there, I don't know. And he can't be. He's not reliable enough.
Yeah, he's great when he's on the field in both aspects of the tight end game. Great run blocker, great pass catcher. But you have 1 year where he plays 15 games, the next year he plays 4. You know, he just keeps. He's kind of like CMC in that regard. You have him a full year injured the rest of the season next year, and then it just kind of goes back and forth. Yeah. I hope he comes back. I love me some George Kittle, but Trey Green, Mackey Award winner this year, I would assume. He's going to be an All-American, I think, and he's got all of the skills to be a future fantasy monster. But let's go ahead and talk about another guy who I've seen live multiple times, just a really good football player, really young, though, is Kamario Taylor for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now, you see the stats, almost as much rushing yards as passing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. He's a dual threat playmaker. I mean, he's big. He's like 6'4", 250 pounds, gigantic guy. And he's flashed a lot in limited action. I just need him to stay healthy. We saw him play Wake Forest. He didn't really start a whole lot, but he played at Wake Forest and got banged up towards the end of the game. And he runs hard, likes contact. I compare him to a guy like Cam Newton, and that's a Heisman winner, national champion. He was ridiculous, right? First overall pick. Kamario Taylor has that type of upside. He just has to put it together with the passing and obviously the rushing. I think he's already good. We'll play some of his highlights. He's our highest rated quarterback recruit ever that we've ever gotten in program history. So there's a lot to like with this kid. He just needs to stay at State. He stayed last year, and he's going to stay this season. So we're hoping that he can continue to develop under Jeff Levy, and I think he's going to be featured in this run game a lot. Any thoughts on Kamario Taylor before I get into some of this film? Because he's got some exciting stuff I want to go over.
No, let's put it out there.
So
you can just get to the highlights because we've already set our pieces on the players. So let's just
absolutely. Well, I like to expand on them a little bit, but this is kind of you're not going to see a lot of this, unfortunately. But Blake Shapen, they did feature some 2 quarterback sets early on in the year. And here comes Kamario. I want to showcase this arm. This is Brennan Thompson, I believe, number 0. And he can throw the ball down there. He's got a killer arm. Here he is versus Florida. You're going to see this a lot with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. This is basically just a read option, keeper, power play. And he's got the contact balance to able to stay upright. And he's going to be featured.
Go back to that previous play.
Yeah.
Look at 75. Not this one. The next one. 75 does his job right there. Like, go back to it again, or is it 76?
Oh, yeah.
Just hauling it the whole way, getting a push, making sure that you're getting that sidestep. That's so important. So,
yeah. And, I mean, we need a little bit more on the offensive line in the trenches for sure. But here – I had to play multiple highlights from this guy. I'm really excited about him. Here's him in the running lane. He does like to run a little bit too quickly. Now, he's not super comfortable passing, especially in the SEC. He was a true freshman last year, so you gotta understand that a little bit. But he's quick to run, but once he gets going, man, he's finding the end zone. I mean, that's a great highlight.
I know that's a touchdown. But he should have gave the ball right there. Because if you look on the left side, it's open. it's a touchdown, but look at what's going on. You've got if 34 blocks that guy right there in front of him, and they gave the ball away, I think he can get past 7 and score.
Well, look at the. I don't think this is a run play. I think this is a complete fake. But I'm just saying, I looked at this. I don't think this is an RPO because watch what this guy doesn't know that Camario's keeping it, and watch his body language. He's not blocking whatsoever. He's running the route immediately. So if he gives that, 10's going to make the play. So I don't think there was ever a run option there.
He had options everywhere on that play.
But he wanted to run. That's my thing.
34 was open. Once he gets on that wheel route, that little Texas route, he's open. Watch. Right there, he's open. Another second. Right there. He's open. The middle of the field is open. He's got options everywhere.
That's the thing with him, right? That's why he has almost as many rushing yards as passing yards, because he is quick to basically use that athleticism, because that's what's been working for him. But he needs to develop that passing game a little bit more. And I'll show you this last play. This really kind of showcases there's not a lot of passing. This is Ole Miss. I was at this game, and I was pretty close to the field on this one. But my jaw dropped to the floor when he did this. We're on like our own 45-yard line. He's running. He's a big frame. It just makes multiple people miss. They were thinking that he fumbled the ball at the goal line. He actually gets in here. That ends up being a touchdown. But just to have a guy that's that athletic, that has the arm talent that he does, we just need the accuracy to be there a little bit more. And just have him be a little bit more comfortable in the system. It was his first year. Like I said, he was a true freshman. So he just has to develop that game. And I'm really excited.
Yeah, he should be. It's always good to have that kind of excitement for your team when star players are going to start, and you've got film on them. So
yeah. And I mean, he's got the athleticism. He just has to put it together in the passing lane. And he's going to be the make or break guy. I think he's got some upside. But here's another guy that has a ton of upside. Very similar player, just obviously, not as big as Camario Taylor. But this guy has shown some, people thought he was going to be a Heisman level guy last year, and just the offensive line fell apart. The offense couldn't do anything. Lenore Sellers for the South Carolina Gamecocks. And when I tell you, this guy has one of the biggest high-velocity arms in the entire country, I mean that. He is ridiculous with his arm. At any point, he can be no base, full base, on time, off time, it doesn't matter. Scrambling, his arm is ridiculous. And he's got a ton of experience, too. He's got pretty much a season and a half. He's got close to 25 starts now. I think him and Nick Harbor were people I was flip-flopping because I don't know if Lenoris is that guy, but I'm going to bet on him this year. With all of the revamp to the offense, you've got the new offensive coordinator, I think he can be a breakout guy in this quarterback-friendly system. What do you think about Lenore Sellers before I get into the highlights? Because I think this guy can be something.
Well, he's due. So he's already shown that he can do it. Let's see what he can do now this year.
And we'll go ahead and go into this. So I want to say this first play. Yeah, it's just a quarterback draw. And he's not super big. I think he's 6'3", but he's able to just run over people. I mean, look at that's a Virginia Tech D1 football player right there, safety, and just gets bulldozed by Lenore Sellers. I mean, he's got that speed too. And he's able to just run guys. He just has that power to him. And then great touch on the ball. There's Nick Harbor in the back of the end zone. They're going to have a really good connection in order for this football team to work next year. And then look at that. I know people, I can just look at a quarterback on throws and just kind of grade their arm just based on 3 to 5 throws. But people can see in this play what I'm talking about, elite arm talent. That ball is there in an instant.
Well, not only that, it's accurate.
And it's accurate. He plays on time, one-step drop back to Nick Harbor.
In the NFL, I think that gets picked off because the closing is going to be a little bit better. I'm not taking anything away from him, but if you look at that highlight, that's nearly picked right there.
Yeah, he likes to force it into tight windows. Whenever we covered him last year, I talked about that a good bit. He is not afraid to throw some crazy throws.
And that's okay to be a gunslinger a little bit, but that one, just that play in particular, looked like it could have been picked off if there was better secondary there for sure.
Well, I'm excited to see what he can do.
We'll see.
He's got the arm, he's got the legs, and I think he's got the offensive staff around him. So he has no excuses now. If he doesn't show up this year, I think he's going to be a late round guy, and he's going to be kind of like another Taylon Green. No disrespect to Taylon Green. I think Lenore's is better than Taylon Green, but that type of archetype of player kind of end up being like that type of archetype. And then last but not least, I don't know if. And this is why I picked Kawan Lacey. Trinidad Chambliss, I think, is very smart, very efficient as a passer at the collegiate level. I do not think he has the intangibles like the arm talent or the athleticism or the quick release to be a starting quarterback at the NFL level. That's just how I feel about him. Despite how good he's been at college, I just don't think he has the intangibles, and I think he's a really, really good backup that can dink and dunk across the field. I think that's what he is. But with Kawan Lacey, I mean, there's a lot to like about Kawan Lacey. He kind of broke out last year, almost 1,600 rushing yards, 24 touchdowns. Not really featured too much in terms of the receiving department, but I mean, there's a lot to like. I'm trying to find my notes on him. 20 carries a game, so true workhorse. I know they brought in a couple guys to kind of lighten that workload for him a little bit, but I mean, he scored in at least 14 of the 15 games, had a bunch of 38 runs of at least 10 or more yards, so he's got 3 of over 50, so he's got some juice to him, but he just has a nose for the end zone. He's a great goal line back. He's got some power to him, great feet. I think the biggest strength of Kawan Lacey is his feet. His footwork is out of this world. I think he's a very patient runner as well. Did you see much of Kawan Lacey last year? What are your thoughts on him coming into 2026? I'm surprised he stayed, but I respect him more for staying at Ole Miss despite his coach leaving.
Well, sometimes they have their reasons. There could be NIL reasons. I mean, running backs are getting paid less than wide receivers. I mean, Zay Flowers just got a stupid pay, So, I mean, highest paid NFL receiver of all time. Jonathan Taylor, he's making more than Jonathan Taylor. So, if you're going to play running back, you can do it with instead of banging up your body in the NFL, if the money's right and it's guaranteed in college. It's not like the NFL where if you get hurt, it makes sense for some of these players to stick around, especially at this position. His draft capital will obviously fluctuate based on what kind of season he has. If he has another one like he did last year, he'll be in the first round. I think he'll be a first-round pick. Running backs aren't a dime a dozen. I don't believe in that philosophy. There are teams that can absolutely use a running back next year. Dallas Cowboys might come knocking. They've got some extra picks. I mean, that's one spot I could see. What are they going to do up there with Washington? I know you like JCM and Rachaad White, but you just don't know where he can go, You just don't know. The 49ers might be looking to move on from C-Mac after this season. There's a multitude of options for Kawan Lacey when he goes pro, so sticking around Ole Miss might not hurt him. It's going to be a loaded draft class next season. It's going to be an exciting one, but he decided he wanted to play SEC ball. Maybe he did that to stick around to pay back for his school and, stick around for Coach Golding and help with recruiting and, give back, as they like to say, like Brock Lesnar giving back at SummerSlam. It could be kind of the same ordinance here.
Well, and I think excelling like he did last year at the SEC level, I think there's a lot that says a lot when you have 1,500 rushing yards in the SEC with that many touchdowns. It shows that, hey, I'm a real player. And if you were to go to a smaller school in the Big 12 or the Big 10, where you aren't playing premier schools every single week, I think that might actually hurt your draft capital in some ways. So I'm going to play some of the highlights here. Kawan Lacey, here's some footwork here. Just great cut, great vision there versus LSU. I mean, this is really good stuff. I mean, He sees that this safety overplays it and just goes straight in through the A gap and finds the end zone. That's his favorite thing to do. And here's another one where goal line, pretty much every time he's getting in, he's able to just punch straight through that A gap again. Yep, straight through the A gap and gets a touchdown versus Georgia, another tough defense. And then talking about tough defenses, Oklahoma. And had one of the better defenses in the entire country. Cut up, breaks a tackle, and then look at that. He's able to outrun guys that have good angles on him. And, I mean, he's not – I think he's probably a mid-4.4 guy, probably a 4.45, somewhere in there. So nothing crazy. But the kid's got enough speed. He's got enough – he's just good everywhere. He just needs to improve the receiving ability a bit more for people to be really excited about him in terms of fantasy aspect. But Quan Lacey, I think, has a ton of upside. He's got the touchdowns. He's got the accolades. And I think they're going to lean heavy on him this year, despite the people that have transferred in at the running back position. I think Quan Lacey can be a first-round pick, like you said. If he replicates even remotely what he did last year, I think this kid's a first-round pick for sure.
Simple as.
So
I got no pushback on that.
Hey, dude, this guy's good. I wish. I'm excited to see what he does in the 2026 season for sure. That's all from me, my friend. That's all.
Well, Bobby, before we close out here, what 4 teams have you decided that we're going to go over next week? Have you got a preview for us yet, or is that TBD?
I want to say, let me look. Because I was trying to replicate what we did last year, and obviously I did not do that because I had Arkansas, and we didn't have Arkansas. So I'm thinking we're going to do Vandy, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the Arkansas Razorbacks next week. That's what I'm thinking. Stay on brand like we did last year.
Yep. So it'll be a good preview next week. I mean, those are some interesting scenarios, especially with Arkansas and their new head coach trying to change the culture over there in Fayetteville. Josh Heupel, they're really excited about what they can do at Tennessee. I don't think that they're going to have this elite season like people think they are. Kentucky's got a new head coach there as well. These SEC teams, that's a blue blood school when it comes to college basketball. We're going to see if they're willing to invest in football. I think Kentucky is one of those teams that's on the brink of something with football. They just haven't been able to do it. So
absolutely.
In Vanderbilt, we're going to see the post-Diego Pavia area. Can coach, what's his name, guy? Clark Lee. Is he still going to be able to keep things going in Nashville? We'll see. We'll see. That's a tough place to play.
Yeah, they've got a stud at quarterback, man. We'll see.
Yep. Vandy's getting some 5-stars. If you're going to pay a player, listen to me, if you're going to pay a player money to go to Vanderbilt, not only – are you getting money to go play in Nashville, Tennessee? You're going to an elite academic institution in Vanderbilt. Make no mistake about it. They keep SEC graduation rates higher. They're like the Northwestern of the South. So named after a very famous American family, but nonetheless. Also tomorrow, you know what tomorrow is, Bobby?
The Hall of Fame game. I'm excited for it.
Carson Beck goes under center for the Cardinals to start.
Kenny Pickett.
And Kenny Pickett, former first-round pick, tiny hands, Burger King hands, going in it. So it's going to be some good stuff. I have my NFL Elite Edge. My pick will be up tomorrow. That is $24.99 a month, folks. And with that being said, Bobby, do you have anything that you want to promote besides your channel at Bobby's Big Board? You got any videos coming out?
I do. In the coming days, I may say tomorrow, possibly Friday. Not quite sure yet, but we'll have a Antonio Williams breakdown before the weekend.
Sounds good. Make sure you guys tune in. Get ready for your fantasy drafts are coming up soon, so enjoy some preseason. College football will be here before you know it. Next Wednesday, same time, we will have week 2 of our SEC preview. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's my favorite part of the year. Anytime I talk college ball, I love it more than anything else on the God's green earth. As you can see, I got the Bama stuff. I got a Bama tattoo. I've got my Green Bay stuff out there too, but it's mostly Alabama. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to sign off for this week, and we will see you all next week. Have a great weekend and roll tide. Enjoy the game.